Good morning, this is Scott from Aquatic Growers. This morning I'm going to explain why my 50 rainbow trout friends are in a quarantine tank, the reasons for quarantining fish, and there are also the reasons for doing water changes when fish are in quarantine. I have approximately 50 8 to 10 inch rainbow trout in a quarantine tank that holds 650 liters or 170 gallons of water. I've just finished doing a water change, and the water I exchanged the tank water with comes from my own well. I'm fortunate enough to live out in the country where I can use the water straight from the faucet, and I do not need to treat it prior to adding it to any of my fish tanks. The temperature of the water when it comes out of my faucet is approximately 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, and after a 24-hour period the water in the tank has risen to 12 degrees. It is a water temperature change that the fish can handle quite nicely. If you live in the city and you're going to be doing water changes, the water that you are using is most likely treated with chlorine, bromine, or chloramine. If that is the case, you need to then treat the water before you can add it to any of your fish tanks. If the city you live in has chlorinated the water with chlorine, that is the easiest to get rid of. With an extra vessel equal to hold the amount of water you want to exchange, and you can aerate that water for 24 hours and it will have eradicated most of the chlorine or gas off the chlorine. It should be safe to use, but always test the water prior to adding it to your fish, because otherwise there's a high chance of you killing your fish with the amount of chlorine in the water. The main reason for holding fish in a quarantine tank is so you can observe their general health. My biggest concern is these fish have come from a fish farm where they have thousands and thousands of fish in close proximity, and I'm mostly concerned about parasitic loads. I operate this quarantine water with 3,000 parts per million of salt in it. It helps with the osmoregulation of the fish, and it will also decrease any parasitic transfer from fish to fish, and depending on the parasite, it can also eradicate the parasite when it is trying to multiply and spread to other fish. If you are going to feed your fish on a regular basis in a quarantine tank, the amount of work you are creating for yourself is 2 to 3 times the amount if you decide to feed them only once or twice a week. The main reason for this is because of the increased ammonia production through their waste. Fish constantly produce ammonia through respiration. So every time they breathe and they're operating their gills, there's ammonia being excreted out of the gills. When they eat and they synthesize proteins, there's more ammonia created when they excrete their waste, visually dirtying the water, but also increasing the ammonia production in the water. I change the water with these 50 fish in approximately the 160 gallons of water every 24 hours. If I've decided not to feed them for 2 or 3 days, I can exchange the water every 36 to 40 hours. It's a lot of extra work, but it's still significantly less work than putting them in your aquaponic system and then finding out that they've brought a parasite in, and now you need to treat the entire system plus any other fish that were already in your system now also have that parasite or that bacterial outbreak. The amount of water that I remove and replace is approximately 7/8 of the volume of whatever that vessel of water will hold. I have monitoring equipment, so I know exactly how much ammonia has been built up in the system in a 24-hour period. I also have monitoring equipment that can tell me the pH, the temperature, the salinity. All of those factors play a significant role in whether or not the amount of ammonia in your water is toxic. There are a lot of charts online that I would suggest that if you're interested in finding more information about, go online and look up toxicity of ammonia to fishes. It is also species specific, but the pH, salinity, and water temperature dramatically change the level of total ammonia nitrogen and the toxic level to your aquatic species. Trout do not handle ammonia very well, and that is why I play it very cautious and change the water quite regularly. Some fish you can get away with not exchanging the water for potentially 2 or 3 days, also depending on the volume of fish you have. So these fish may be put in my aquaponic system in 2 to 3 weeks, as long as I'm confident that they are parasite free and they show general health. Hopefully I've explained a few of the husbandry practices that we have at Aquatic Growers. None of these fish will ever be treated with chemicals, hormones, or antibiotics. So before they go into any of our systems, I need to make sure that they are disease-free as possible. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at Aquatic Growers on YouTube, or you can feel free to email me at aquaticgrowers@gmail.com, and I will try to field any of the questions that come forward. Have a good day.